Hey, Miguel Iturrate back here on the CRP. It's Saturday, June 8th, and that means that the Zone has Triple G and Steve Rolls at Madison Square Garden. Check your local listings for start times. And I am joined by ASP, our boxing channel analyst, or our boxing analyst here, looking to make picks on the Triple G Rolls card. Not a lot of appealing numbers off the top of the card here. We reviewed them earlier in the week, and obviously Triple G expected to notch a win here. I see you're making 3 bets on the card, so why don't you take us through it? I got a welterweight 8-rounder that you've got your eye on. Bakhtiyar Eyubov 14-0-1, 12 knockouts. He's the underdog as he takes on undefeated Brian Ceballo. Ceballo 8-0. Ceballo minus 425 favorite. Eyubov paying back at plus 320. How are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a good fight. Eyubov is out of Kazakhstan, but he lives and fights from the USA. He's actually had 2 fights in Germany, but his first 8 or 10 were here, and his last several have been here, if I remember correct. So he does live and fight out of the USA. So, and even Kazakhstan, as we know, has a pretty vibrant boxing scene. So I think he can hold his own, 14-0 with 12 KOs, and I think that's interesting when you look at Brian Ceballo with 8-0, 4 knockouts. Now, granted, he's had a great amateur career. In fact, USA Boxing for 2018 had him the #1 ranked amateur boxer out there. Has he been able to make that transition to the pros and find how to connect the power? And of course, some of these fights were only 4 or 6 round fights, so maybe he just didn't have time. But having said that, I think there's still some question marks. I think he can definitely outbox Eyubov, obviously. Eyubov having those 12 knockouts, that gives him that chance. So my actual prediction is Ceballo by decision, but I would give Eyubov at a plus 320, a good solid look for that dog watch. And then your under 5.5 is a plus 300. So if Eyubov were to pull up the upset, it may be from a knockout, although it'd probably be pretty hard to get through the defenses of such a good amateur. But if you were to pull out off at 5.5 under, and then the flip side of that coin is when you pick the under, you don't have to pick the boxer. So if Eyubov is going to have a chance at it, he needs to open up and go for the knockout, which opens him up to the counter. So maybe depending on what strategies there are, the under bet, because it is a plus 300, 5.5 on the round. So that's it. Dog watch Eyubov for plus 320. The plus 300 that one of them can do it in 5.5 rounds. I think this is actually going to be a pretty good fight. Tell you what, Miguel.
The whole card probably is going to have some good fights, not high on name recognition. And I see here that you've isolated 154-pound 10-rounder Norberto Gonzalez. He's the veteran at 24-12. He's taking on Israil Madrimov. Madrimov clocks in at just 2-0 out of Uzbekistan, but he's one of those amateur studs as well.
He's done really well. I will say that he won the Asian World Games. It's simply it's like a regional Olympics, if you will. He tried to repeat that right before he went pro, and he was beat by a guy from Kazakhstan. So it's sort of an interesting thing. He may be the best, to go ahead and go pro was definitely a good decision. 2-0, 2 knockouts. Fairly early on, I think he has a 2nd rounder and a 7th rounder, which brings that back. The under, I don't think so. There's no reason to bet it because the over and the under are both negative right now, negative 120. So you're getting less. You have to bet 120 to win 100, whether you pick the over or the under. So there's really not a lot in it there. Gonzalez 24-12, not a great record. I see Madrimov probably a KO on 2nd round, maybe 3rd, 2nd round. So then that would say, well, why not pick the under if I'm so sure? There's just no money in it. So it could be a good fight, probably a highlight fight for Madrimov.
And Madrimov minus 25.75 favorite at the books. Gonzalez plus 1,300 at this point gives you an idea of what the expectations are there. And heading into the main event, we are looking at similar expectations, we can call it that, as Gennady Goolovkin, 38-1-1 at this point. The blemishes, the draw, and the loss, both at the hands of Saul Canelo Alvarez. Golovkin, now 37 years old, now in his mid to late 30s. Piatt People are saying, did he drop off during the Canelo fights as he passed off some time here? He says no, and he wants, to get the most money out of this DAZN contract he signed. This is the first fight on DAZN contract. Steve Rolls out of Canada, 19-0, 10 knockouts. Nothing on his resume that resembles anything like the animal he's about to face in Golovkin. Golovkin minus 3,600 at the books. Rolls plus 1,800 as stated. How are you looking at this one?
I think you're right, and I think that contract is important. You might know more details than I, but I think Triple G has one of these contingent contracts. In other words, it's eight or 10 fights, but he has to win 2 of the first 3 or something. I mean, they're not. The contract isn't open if he loses. It's a win and continue type contract, from what I understand. So it is important for him to win and to have a good showing and to show the world that he's still a top contender at one time, considered pound for pound. I see Golovkin probably KO in the 3rd round, which brings the under. It's a 4.5. They called it on this one. The over and under at 4.5. It was only plus 100 at the time we got our odds. If you can get the under 4.5 for anything over 100, if you can get plus 150, give or take, then I would take the under. But at even odds, I don't think I would take any bets on this. I would just watch and enjoy it. But I do expect Golovkin to look really good, really strong, and probably knock out with that beautiful right hook that he loves to throw,
We do have one X factor in this fight, and that is that Golovkin, through all his years of dominance, was a middleweight kingpin. This fight sees them moving up to the super middleweight class. Both guys weighing in at about 164 pounds. Golovkin 163, Rolls 163 and 3/4 pounds. So looks like it might even be a catch weight there. Could that be a factor? Golovkin maybe doesn't want to cut the weight anymore. Maybe looking to operate at 168 pounds. Maybe his power won't be there. Nobody thinks that that's going to help Rolls in this fight, but might there be something there?
Yeah, I think you have an interesting point there. He is aging. Is he going to need to move? And if he moves up, what's the ramifications of that? I mean, it gets him away from Canelo. That may not be a bad thing. But truthfully, I think the money is in the trilogy there. They need to make that fight. But I think he has to win. What do you think? Before he can link up towards the end of that contract with Canelo again?
I think Canelo will call the shots on that. If Canelo wants to do it next after, or before the end of this year, they'll do it before the end of this year. If Canelo has another opponent that's going to be monetized, Canelo has to feel comfortable heading into this fight, right? So no problem for Canelo if you're going to give him a bigger payday than any of the other middleweights or whatever. Canelo's got options. Obviously, he can explore British opponents, etc., etc. But Canelo will make the call on that. It won't be Triple G. And I think that's part of why you see Triple G's approach nowadays in public and in the media and stuff has been kind of, almost like he has been wronged in some way. And it is a situation where for years he was the feared guy at middleweight, and now that's not so much the case. The book open, for years he was the big fight. Now Canelo might go in another direction and not want to fight him, and that would affect Golovkin much worse. Golovkin doesn't have another major payday.
Yeah, that's right. And I think when you look at what's going to happen with it does come down. I mean, obviously Golovkin would love the rematch, and I guess I kind of meant yes if Canelo wants it, but for Golovkin to sort of force the issue, he doesn't have a lot of leverage right now. So it is up to Canelo. I really do agree with you on that. So wanted to throw out, we had talked earlier in the week that ESPN Top Rank Boxing, I sort of thought it was a lead-in to the Zone fight, but the Zone starts at 9 and goes till midnight, and ESPN I think starts at 10 o'clock and goes till midnight or something to that effect. So they're actually congruent, therefore they're must not be working together. One is Top Rank, and I don't know, I think Golovkin is not with Top Rank.
It's probably K2 and Tom Loeffler,
Yeah, I'm not sure. So sorry for the confusion on that, folks, but just want to point out that these are congruent shows. So you've got ESPN, regular ESPN on your cable networks, and then you have the Zone running the bigger fight, let's say.
That is correct. You want to check your local listings, and ESPN and the Zone probably won't work together. And here's a situation where if you're going to stay on top of the Valdez-Sanchez fight that ESPN is offering, you're going to have to stay on top of switching channels back and forth or whatever it is you're doing. But the big fight on the zone, how do you follow up Andy Ruiz Jr. versus Anthony Joshua? Follows it up with Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. Not bad name recognition and stuff. The opponent leaves a little bit to be desired, but we get by this fight tonight. And if Rolls does pull out the upset, then maybe, Madison Square Garden is giving out some upset juice out there, and somebody ought to check it out. And we'll leave it at that. How you doing for the Valdez card? Do you want to make a pick on that and in another broadcast, or are we going to stay away from that?
Maybe. I didn't look into it a lot yet because it was congruent, so I didn't really look into it much, but I could take a look at it and see if we can get back to the fans with another one here shortly. So, yeah, absolutely. Check back. And while you're at it, subscribe to Facebook, Cage Rage Podcast, and we'll keep bringing it to you. And shout out to Amanda Knoll, a friend of ours that may be joining us for some podcasts in the future. Just a shout out to say howdy.
And that's great news. That's the last look at Triple G versus Steve Rolls. The fight is in the books. The fighters both made weight, 163, 163 3/4. And the fight's just hours away. I've been joined by ASP, Anthony Scott Piatt, our boxing expert, to make final picks on tonight's offering on the zone.